Almost 2 years ago now, I made a video where I dived into the depths of GameJolt to review 8 FNAF fan games that nobody else was playing. Typically on the channel, I like to dive deep into just one fan game per video. However, that video format leaves a lot of shorter, obscure games to be left out when I'm deciding on which games to cover. That's why today I have once again compiled 8 obscure FNAF fan games from GameJolt to check out today. And don't worry, just because these games are lesser known does not make them any less interesting. In most cases, I actually find them to be more unsettling when they have less downloads. I don't know, it just feels like you're discovering something that nobody else has seen. Anyways, with that being said, let's jump into the first game of the video. The first game up is Knocking on Heaven's Door by Soggy Soup. This game originally caught my attention with its very unique looking animatronic designs, which are displayed front and center on the GameJolt page. A game that not only focuses on the horror side of FNAF, but also reinvents the look of the animatronics in a new way, already had me very curious. And with only 370 downloads, I just had to see what this game was about. The game starts with a pretty ominous menu of what appears to be a heart monitor. After pressing play, we actually get a short introduction to our main character Lily through her journal. My name is Lily, I am 7 years old. For my 7th birthday, my parents brought me to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, but when they were singing happy birthday, something happened. Then my head was dizzy and I woke up here. This brief introduction sets up the premise nicely as us most likely playing as the victim of the Bite of 87. The creepy ambience and drawings to go along with the short introduction also really set the tone for the rest of the game. After this, we are given a quick rundown on all of the mechanics. First of all, we need to survive until 6 AM. The whole time while doing this, we also need to manage our stress meter, as letting it fill up will actually cause our character to die. To lower our stress meter, there's a few different things we can do, such as watch the TV, draw on our sketch pad, or play with our plushie. However, these all come at the cost of making noise, especially the plushie, which is extremely loud. The noise meter, by the way, speeds up the threat of the animatronics, so it's in our best interest to be as quiet as possible. We are also allowed to call the nurse in if we want to lower our stress, although sometimes it can actually be Chica posing as the nurse. And if this happens, then it only stresses us out further. I actually really like this idea because not only does it add a risk-reward element to the game, but also just the idea of Chica posing as your nurse is really horrifying. As the hours progress in the night, new animatronics are slowly introduced one by one. For the first hour, we only need to worry about 2 bears. The first one makes itself very obvious to you, appearing at the end of your bed. To get rid of him, all we need to do is shine our light on him, which while easy, does take away a lot of our time. The other bear only plays a small role, every once in a while appearing in a shadowy state on the TV. If we see this bear on the TV, we can simply click on it to change the channel. After getting past the first hour and reaching 1 AM, we are given this message in the top left. You will be greeted by a painted face. Avoid it with your light to stay safe, which is warning us about the addition of Bonnie, who now appears to have a clown-like design. For Bonnie, we need to simply avoid looking at him at all costs. This alone isn't very difficult, but can be pretty annoying if he's standing next to Freddy or just somewhere you're trying to look. Oh yeah, he also does this loud screaming thing that makes a lot of noise, and there's nothing you can do about it. After reaching 2 AM, we are introduced to Foxy, who in this game is referred to as a canine beast. Foxy begins attacking by first trying to get under our bed, which we are able to look down at. Once we hear Foxy crawl under the bed, we need to peek over the side and turn the key on the back of his head to stop him from killing us. If we do fail to turn the key, that's actually not the end of us though, as during Foxy's jump scare, we can actually spam spacebar to push him off of us. And as long as we have our stress meter low enough to tank that encounter, we are able to survive, which I think is really cool. After the addition of Foxy, no more animatronics are added, meaning now all we need to do is survive until 6 AM. Unfortunately, the game is only 1 night long, but for a short and sweet fan game, I think this one was really good. The game has a super unique vibe to it thanks to its art style, character character designs and ambience. The gameplay for its one night felt very chaotic and stressful, which is exactly how a one night fan game should feel. And the premise of us playing as the Bite of 83 victim also works really well. It's simple and straight to the point, which helps us jump straight into this game's very unique setting. Next up is a game called Another Nightmare. Being a really obscure one with only 55 downloads, this one originally caught my attention from this screenshot. Now, I have no idea what this is supposed to be, but it is absolutely horrifying, so I just had to check out this game. Now, unfortunately, although I was expecting a pretty creepy experience for this one, that's not really what I got. Despite a pretty ominous main menu screen, this game seems to be a meme game, featuring things like a Shrek poster on the wall, and whoever this dude is supposed to be. As for the gameplay, it's very similar to FNAF 4, having us run around different rooms to shine our flashlight and close doors. The whole place feels like a maze the way you have to click on different paths to get to each room, and there would even be times where I wouldn't even be able to leave a room once I walked into it. So yeah, sadly I wasn't able to get very far in this one, but that still doesn't stop whatever this thing is from being absolutely horrifying. I would love to see a game from the dev that focuses solely on this character in the future. I think that could make for a pretty disturbing fan game. Anyways, on to the next game. Next game up is called Dereliction by Circuit Board Productions. Dereliction originally caught my attention with its only 2 screenshots, which depict a very disturbing looking deer animatronic. And with only 290 downloads, I just had to see what this game was all about. Other than these 2 screenshots though, there's also a brief synopsis on the Game Jolt page, which gives us a little bit of detail into the story. You've been on the job search for a few months now with little to no luck. The only thing you've seen in the wanted ads is a night watchman job at an old diner, but you've just ignored it till now. The bills are starting to pile up and there's no other option, so you decide you'll take the job. After all, it's just watching an abandoned building. What could go wrong? The main menu for this game is pretty basic, depicting what appears to be the entrance of the building, alongside a difficulty option and a begin night button. After pressing new game, we immediately spawn in the office, and with no phone call, we are left on our own to figure out how to survive. As for what we have to protect ourselves, we have a lever to our left which turns on an alarm, a lever on the right to reset our cameras, and our cameras right behind us, which are displayed on these CRT TVs. There's also a heat room button which is able to scare animatronics away if they're on that specific camera. While the environmental graphics leave a lot to be desired, appearing pretty blurry and generic, I feel like the game makes up for it with the animatronic designs, animations, and jump scares. One of the mechanics of the deer is that he will wander into your office, forcing you to pull the alarm switch on your left before he kills you. Not only does his model look absolutely terrifying, but the twitching animation he does during it gives a lot of life to the character and makes him even creepier. Similarly, the jump scare animation also looks great, and actually caught me off guard on my very first attempt. As for the gameplay, it's decent, but nothing too special. It's a one-night fan game where all we need to do is survive until 6 AM. We are only up against 2 animatronics, the one we need to sound the alarm for, and the one we need to use the heat room button on. This leads to the night being pretty easy. I mean, I was able to beat it on my second attempt. I do like some of the concepts here, I just wish that there were more threats throughout the night to make this fan game even more chaotic, which would have made the game that much scarier. Another thing is, unfortunately, other than the short synopsis on the Game Jolt page, there is no additional story in the form of cutscenes or phone calls. I would have liked to see a little more world building to get me invested in the location and animatronics the game is showing us. I do see a lot of potential in the people who worked on this game though, and I'm sure their next project will be something even better. Now, the next game up is by far the most content-rich and polished game on this list. Fredbear's 83 Reborn is a game which only came out a few days ago. Developed by Toaster, this game aims to take us back to the old Fredbear's Family Diner location, fitting directly into the main FNAF timeline, between FNAF 1 and 2. With only 200 downloads, yet such a well-polished looking Game Jolt page, I just had to give this game a chance, and well, I was absolutely not disappointed. Right away when launching the game, I already knew this was going to be a banger. Not only is this one of the cleanest main menus I've seen in a fan game, boasting some really cool animated renders for every single option, as well as a main menu OST which goes extremely hard. But it also states in the bottom left corner that it was inspired by the Return to Bloody Nights, which was one of the best fan games I've played in recent times. The whole menu just feels really alive and gets you ready for the experience this game is. Oh yeah, there's also achievements, which as an achievement hunter myself was a very welcome addition. After pressing new game, much like the classic FNAF games, we are given a newspaper, which reads, "Help wanted. Fredbear's Family Diner looking for a security guard." After the renovation at the local diner, the WH Electronics company states that they are in need of a new security guard to work the night shift. The location is still in very early stages and only a few animatronics work. Next one estimated to ship in a few days. We then get a short little cutscene before our first night. After this, instead of just immediately starting in the office, we actually have to walk around the dark pizzeria, which is something I really like. It lets us get a grasp of the environment we're going to be surviving in, and also just sets a very eerie vibe. During this, we are able to get a look at Fredbear and Spring Bonnie on stage, as well as the brand new Foxy animatronic that has been added in this game. After following our task and turning on the generator, we are then able to make our way to the office and begin night 1. It's here where we get our very first phone call from Jeremy himself. During this phone call, Jeremy introduces us to Fredbear, Foxy, and Spring Bonnie. We are told to shock Spring Bonnie if we ever see him moving on the cameras, as that will reset his system, but are also warned to not flash him when he is on the main stage, which funnily enough I did almost immediately, causing Spring Bonnie to absolutely freak out. We are also warned about Spring Bonnie making his way into the vent and told to type seal_vent into the console if we ever see Spring Bonnie attempting to make his way in. I actually really like that we have to physically type the code and not just push a button. Not only can it be very stressful when you're trying to close a vent and you're messing up your typing, but it also just makes the task feel more legit. Jeremy then warns us about our devices being able to go offline, which we are able to fix with our maintenance panel. Other than this, we also have a flashlight which we can use to look at our main window, a light to our right which reveals a nearby hallway, and a play music button on the cameras which doesn't come into play till later. Night 1 is really easy, only having to go against Spring Bonnie, but it's a nice chance to get a grasp of all of the mechanics. One thing I want to mention during this night is I really love how animated the whole game is. Almost every render of Spring Bonnie on the cameras shows him twitching around, which adds a lot of life to the character. Other things in the environment can also be seen moving, such as this light swinging back and forth. Things like this are small but help the game just feel that much more immersive. After reaching 6 AM, we get a rather unenthusiastic 6 AM screen before we are once again thrown into the next night. During night 2, Jeremy introduces us to Foxy, who is now active and able to roam around. If we hear moving or see him in a different position, we simply need to open up his respective camera and use our shock button to set him back to his original position. This mechanic is not too difficult to manage, as Foxy makes it very apparent when he moves, thanks to the sound of him sharpening his hooks, which can be heard throughout the building. This sound effect, along with his renders and jump scares, make Foxy feel a lot more threatening this time around. Jeremy also reminds us that the flashlight we use to keep track of the window in front of us has a very limited battery supply, so we need to keep track of it. During this night, I took my very first death, which is when I came to realize that this game's jump scares are really good. They are fast and straight to the point, which makes them very startling, and the animations for all of them are also just really smooth and look really good. Also, after dying, much like the Return to Bloody Nights, we get a unique death screen depending on which character killed us, along with a voice line and a tip to help us next time around, which I think is a very good addition. Night 2, much like Night 1, is very easy, but lets us get more used to Spring Bonnie's pathing, which can be hard to follow, making him the deadliest threat in the game. For Night 3, Jeremy introduces us to Fredbear, who is now also active. If we see Fredbear moving on the cameras, we need to go to his respective camera and play music, which after some time will send him back to his main stage. Unlike Spring Bonnie, Fredbear likes to either hide in the dark or the very corners of the camera, making it a lot harder to see him. Thanks to the small delay there is between switching cameras, it can be rather difficult during this night to keep track of all three animatronics, which is where the fun of this game's gameplay comes from. This truly does feel like a classic FNAF experience where you will be trying to memorize the location of every animatronic as you survive the night. Before hanging up the phone, Jeremy also hints towards the owner's son's birthday party, which is coming up on the weekend. After reaching 6 AM, instead of going straight to night 4, we are actually given an additional post-night task. Before that though, today's video is sponsored once again by Red Magic. The Red Magic 9S Pro is their brand new gaming smartphone, which is made to give you an unrivaled mobile gaming experience. With insane specs like the upgraded ICE 13.5 cooling system, the 6500 mAh battery, and the BOE Q9 Plus full flat FHD Plus screen, there's no doubt that this phone will be able to handle all of your favorite mobile games at smooth frame rates. Besides that, the phone also comes equipped with the upgraded Red Magic 9.5 operating system, customizable RGB fan lights, and a full flat back panel design with no camera bumps. Speaking of the camera, this thing is pretty crazy, being able to take videos in 4K and even 8K. Back to the gaming side of things though, the phone also has the newly upgraded shoulder triggers, which have a lightning fast 520Hz frequency, as well as a 90% increased touch area, which is perfect for high action games like COD Mobile or PUBG. There's also some really cool new features with this phone, like these super wallpapers which let you play classic games right on your home screen, or the new display customization and aspect ratio features that allow you to switch the display ratio in certain games, letting you see more in-game content. If you want to improve your mobile gaming experience today, head over to my link in the description to see more on the Red Magic 9S Pro. With that being said, thank you once again to Red Magic for sponsoring this video. This one is rather simple, having us review a checklist while inspecting Fredbear's jaw. While the gameplay here is nothing to write home about, I appreciate this moment for letting us get a closer look at Fredbear and just how dangerous he can be. After finishing the checklist in a very unexpected moment, this happens. Our character is bitten by Fredbear, and in a kind of fourth wall breaking way, we are shown a death screen as if we failed the night. Only thing is, this was scripted to happen. Night 4 then begins, and we immediately get a phone call from Jeremy who tells us about the incident that occurred the previous night, with one of the employees being bitten by Fredbear. We are also introduced to a new Springlock suit that's been added to the building, and Jeremy hints towards someone actually dying within this Springlock suit. Of all places for the brand new Springlock animatronic to be, he is laying right outside of our right doorway. Throughout the night, we need to use our light on him every once in a while to check if he is standing up or not, to make sure he's not approaching our office. Thanks to a sound cue that plays, there's ways to know if he has moved or not without directly checking on him. but due to the game's other ambient noises, you can't always just trust your ears. This adds yet another thing we need to keep track of in a already very stressful night. Night 4 was surprisingly difficult and took me a lot of attempts to complete. I was constantly battling with the scarce amount of battery you are given for your flashlight, as Spring Bonnie just kept walking up to my window and there was nothing I could do about it. After finishing night 4 though, before starting our final shift, we again get a short post-night minigame. This time, we are controlling a kid in an 8-bit style minigame similar to the one seen in FNAF 3. We are given the objective to feed pizza to Fredbear. However, as you would expect, things don't go as originally planned. This takes us right into night 5, where we are greeted by a different man on the phone who sounds a lot like William Afton.
Listen, Mike. Everything you heard before, forget about it. You will receive your pay in the morning and don't come back.
He begins the call by immediately addressing us by our name, Mike, which hints towards us actually playing as Mike Schmidt, before telling us that we will receive our pay in the morning and to leave immediately after that, to never come back. Night 5 doesn't add any new threats, instead just increasing the aggressiveness of the 4 we fought off previously. Don't get it confused though, Night 5 is not easy at all, as I actually couldn't beat it no matter how many times I tried. Now I should note that at the time of writing this, an update has actually just been released today, which might have made the night a little bit easier, but I have not got around to checking it out, so I really have no idea. Regardless though, it is possible and someone was able to beat it, so here is the final cutscene after completing night 5, which involves a message from Henry to William.
I built this place to bring happiness, create memories, not this nightmare. Every night I lie awake, thinking, hoping that maybe you come home, trying to prove to myself that it's all just a terrible dream. And you were there, always so involved, so dedicated. But there was something off, wasn't there? Those late nights, those secret projects. What did you do, William? What did you do to my daughter? I trusted you. We were supposed to be creating something beautiful, something magical. But you turned it into a nightmare. And those ring locks. How many more people are going to die because of these ring locks? I won't rest until I find out the truth. I swear to you. I will find her, and when I do, when I uncover what you've done, I'm gonna make sure you suffer.
Overall, this was a really good fan game. It offered an interesting story which we watched unfold throughout the several nights, introduced well thought out mechanics that led to some tense gameplay, and the overall presentation of the whole game, from its OST to its jump scares, were all extremely polished. With that being said, let's now move on to the next game. Next up is a weird one to say the least. Nyctophobia by The Wordo is Birdo is a game with only 11 downloads that I stumbled across when searching through the new tab on GameJolt. At first, it may appear to just be another generic FNAF fan game, but after clicking on the page, the one screenshot available showcased a very peculiar animatronic design. One so strange that I really had no choice but to give the game a download and discover what this was really all about. Surprisingly enough, as soon as I launched the game, it actually opened with a cutscene. We see who looks to be our main protagonist sitting on a bed. He talks about being haunted by apparitions and exclaims that although he was put on medication, it did nothing to help him. He then heads to his grandparents' house, a place they gave him to stay while he overcomes his troubles, and that is where the cutscene ends. with our characters sitting down at a computer and coming face to face with one of these monsters once again. After this, we then get taken to the main menu, and well, I'll just let it speak for itself. I don't know if it's just me, but something about this was weirdly unsettling. This is what I was talking about when I was saying that games with little to no downloads just feel so much more eerie. As for the actual gameplay, well, I couldn't figure it out to save the life of me. There's like this mechanic where you can hide under the desk, as well as one where you can turn around and close the windows, I think. And we are also given this little tutorial screen before the night begins, but honestly, this just made me more confused. Even though I wasn't able to get far in this game at all, it just got me even more curious. So I decided to check out the first and second game in the series as well, and to my surprise, these two were also pretty creepy. Looking over the first game's Game Jolt page, we are immediately met with this screen, hinting towards the game being a more violent fan game. Besides this, the game also features more screenshots of some very unnerving and weird animatronic designs. After downloading this one and giving it a go, I was actually able to make it a little farther than in the third game. This one starts with a rather basic and disappointing menu that is far from being as creepy as the third game. After pressing play though, we get a brief story introduction, telling us basically that we were dared to stay overnight in a haunted hospital, and for whatever reason we went through with it. Before the night actually begins, much like Fredbear's 83 Reborn, we need to walk ourselves over to our office. The only problem being that while on the way, we can get stopped by the 4 main animatronics, which I have to say once again all look strangely disturbing and have some pretty creepy jump scares. Now I know that these eyes are just like a stolen PNG and like the teeth are just like added on to the original FNAF models, but I don't know, they're just very uncanny. Like, this is actually creepy. Once we make it into the office though, all we need to do is watch our left and right door while also using the tracker in the middle of the office to predict the animatronic locations. Strangely enough, throughout the night, Withered Chica kept appearing in front of me but wouldn't kill me. Instead, I actually died to normal Chica after like 10 minutes of waiting to reach 6 AM, which didn't even end up ending the night. I have no idea how long they expected me to survive, but there was no way I was about to do that again. Alright, well, why not just check out the second game since I checked out the first and third, I thought to myself. Little did I know though that this was gonna be the weirdest one in the trilogy. This one actually opens up with a pretty lengthy cutscene of someone on a phone giving us a rundown on how to survive. The whole thing was super slow and dragged out though, so instead I just skipped the cutscene and went straight into the gameplay. This turned out to be a mistake though, as I was almost immediately jump scared by Fredbear, killing me instantly. Or at least I thought, as while I was mashing buttons in the death screen, I actually managed to progress the game, all while I was simultaneously being sent back to the main menu. At this point, the game was completely falling apart. However, after using a cross to get Fredbear away from me, the next part of the game began. And after hearing yet another short monologue from the character on the phone, we see our character fall down the elevator to his death, and are met with this truly beautiful game over screen. Now, in all seriousness, I'm pretty sure that this game was made by a kid just experimenting with game development, so there's nothing really negative I can say about these games. I mean, I even made my own fan games when I was little, and let me tell you, they were a lot worse than this. The reason I decided to include this game on the list though was because I actually did see potential in some of the designs present here, and also just wanted to showcase how much of a surreal experience this whole trilogy was. For the 8th and final game on the list, we have Freddy Fazbear Checkup by Mr. Hipster, which only has 940 follows on GameJolt. This game caught my attention because despite the game flying under most radar, the graphics are insanely good based on the screenshots alone. The game also depicts a little bit of blood in one of the teasers, and as someone who is into the more horror aspects of FNAF and doesn't like the kid-friendly approach it's been taking recently, this was enough to get me to download the game. Right away we are hit with a warning message telling us that this game may not be suitable for younger audiences. We then load into the main menu, which has a sort of training tape-esque vibe to it that I think fits the game pretty well. Upon starting the game, we are met with a short analog horror type cutscene to prepare us for our work we need to do on Freddy. Our little Freddy friend gives us a rundown of the 4 steps that we need to complete in order to get Freddy looking brand new, before we are then launched straight into the game. Right away I was worried because I thought I was gonna have to memorize everything said in the tapes, take notes, and then work on Freddy by myself. But luckily the game gives us reminders on which steps we're on and how to do them. Step 1 is security protocols. For this step, we simply need to get up close and personal with Freddy and hold his nose to disable his security. However, after pressing it, we experience a hallucination. One in which we see the presumed victim that rests within Freddy Fazbear. After picking up a little device on the table, we can now move on to step 2, which is cleaning Freddy. The phone guy tells us that despite what the tape said at the beginning of the game, we will instead be using an old school cleaning method. We then need to climb under the table where we are able to find the old cleaning spray. However, upon coming back up, the power randomly shuts off and Freddy is nowhere to be found. We now need to spend a minute and a half conserving our battery life while also flashing Freddy if he gets too close. Also, if we hear Freddy laugh on one side of the office, we need to immediately look to the other side in order to avoid him. This was the first part where I actually died, and much like the rest of the game, the jump scare looked great and actually caught me really off guard, especially because of how loud it was. After surviving through the power outage, Freddy is now back on the table and we are able to use our cleaning spray on him. This brings us up to step 3, charging the parts. In this step, much like the Funtime Freddy minigame from Sister Location, we need to use a tablet to charge up different parts of Freddy. Looking at the tablet in order to charge up these parts causes us to lose sight of Freddy, and during these moments he can do 2 things, which are shut off the lights and break our camera. If Freddy breaks the camera and we continue to ignore him, well, we're dead. So periodically we need to check on the camera and do this short little minigame in order to repair it. This part is very slow and takes a lot of patience, but luckily isn't too hard. This takes us to the 4th and final step, which is sound response. And this one was surprisingly the easiest step of them all. We need to take instructions from the phone guy on which direction to play the speaker in before writing down the response Freddy gives on our checklist. We do this 5 or so times and the minigame is over. This part seems to be inspired by the maintenance levels in Help Wanted and how those played out. However, I was confused to see that the game never tries to mislead the player into playing the speaker on the wrong side. The guy on the intercom would tell you to play something to Freddy's left, and players would often place it to their left, resulting in you getting killed. But instead in this game, you just follow the phone guy's exact instructions and then the step is complete. After finishing that 4th and final task, the game is actually over, but not before one final cutscene.
Thank you, Gabriel. I will take it from here. Well, you are someone strong. Yes, I need you, but don't get me wrong, this is not a pleasure thing to do. But it is necessary. We need to stop the one who always comes back. He always does. If we get to a place where he never comes back, maybe we have a chance to stop him forever. Your agony breaks through all the timelines. You are and I'm not canon, my friend. But this is for something else. You will be in peace soon. It will be quick. You won't be desolated. I will be here always with you.
Now, if you're a little confused on who this is supposed to be, I actually found out it's a character from another game made by Mr. Hipster called Desolate Nights. I've never actually played this game for myself, but I might check it out later on the channel if I end up doing a follow-up to this video. Overall though, I enjoyed this fan game. While the gameplay was a little lackluster, I would say the game made up for it with its other aspects. The graphics are shockingly good, it actually managed to scare me, and it's a short but sweet gateway into playing the developer's more fleshed out titles. With that being said, that's where I'm gonna end the video. Comment down below which of the 8 games was your favorite, and also don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy FNAF fan game videos. Also, once again, thank you to Red Magic for sponsoring this video. Anyways, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.